Welcome to Littlefield University. Today we're doing a director's commentary for our latest video with the DRA. I'm Zach Coleman, the director for the DRA videos. I was responsible for asking all the important questions and also making sure that our team was successful.
And I'm Tim Hill. I was the DP of this project.
I'm Stephen Malik. I was the producer on this project and the coordinator for schedules and travel.
Check it out.
River and the bluffs, and it's just, we live in a beautiful place. I really believe that the core of our essence is that we want all of our citizens, all our residents to thrive.
Back in about 1983, unemployment in Dubuque was horrendous. In fact, we were ranked as the highest unemployment in the nation.
We lost 10% of our population as a community because there weren't jobs for people.
The city of Dubuque was coming upon real hard times. People were leaving town.
We were losing population. We were losing hope.
There was a campaign that said, the last one to leave Dubuque, turn out the lights. And that was on billboards, it was on t-shirts.
But it never deterred them from having a vision for being one of the best cities or towns to live in.
And there was a group of local citizens that wanted to change that trajectory.
Folks on our board got together, and some of them mortgaged their homes to gather support for the city to raise about $7 million to build a facility that would help bring this community together.
People once again saw things happening in the city, and as a result, the dog track was built.
The Dubuque Racing Association of 1985 was a group that really came together in defense of its city.
They were the catalyst for everything that's happened here in Dubuque. Without that organization, I don't know if we'd be where we are today.
Dubuque and the DRA are really one and the same.
It's owned by the city, by the taxpayers. And so that's a very unique arrangement where you have a casino that is not owned by a corporate gaming entity.
We have two facilities, the Q facility, which is owned by the community, and the Diamond Joe, which is owned by Boyd Gaming out of Las Vegas. The proceeds from both of those contribute to the reinvestment in the community.
Today, Diamond Joe and Q make Dubuque a gaming destination.
For a lot of people, this spans generations. So, we started with the Dubuque Greyhound Park and we moved into the casino, and the philanthropic impact that the DRA has made in Dubuque has been huge. It's just impacted generations of people.
We know their board members, we see them at the grocery store, we see them constantly engaged in supporting nonprofits beyond their grant making.
Although it's a small town, they're really growing in their diversity and for families and children being able to experience diversity in a safe place.
We're doing things in a way that other places in the country haven't figured out yet. We've solved some really big problems. We've lowered our poverty rate, for example. I really do think that we're on the cusp of really great things.
Since inception, we've had over a $1 billion impact in the community.
Racing is what we did, but resilient is who we are. And as we take our next steps in our development within our community, we need to remember that resilience of how it got us started. And now we need to go on offense and let that resilience take us to new heights.
The DRA is a nonprofit based in Dubuque, Iowa, but they also help with the tri-state area. And so we were actually requested to come on in, shoot a few videos for them. A few of them included a brief history lesson on who the DRA is, why the grants are so impactful within their community, and also why we love Dubuque as well. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of want to move there now. It's actually really cool. So they did a good job.
Yeah, so this is one of the projects where we had two different offices coming together to work on it. We had Tim and I from the Charlotte team flew up to Chicago, and we met Zach and Emily from the Las Vegas team, and we drove over to Iowa, and we were able to kind of corral some resources and work together for the first time and with a client job.
No, it's always fun to shoot with, you know, other people that you don't really get to see too often, and really be in a collaborative space with just, you know, more than the people that you see on the daily.
I've worked with Tim before, but it was something that I was really excited to work with Steven with because he is in Charlotte and I'm in Vegas, and I had the opportunity to train in Charlotte when I first got hired, and Steven is fantastic, so I was happy to have him on my team.
Well, thank you.
So about 3 years ago, I was actually Tim's supervisor, and he actually got me this job, and it was fantastic. And so I knew that when we were going into this, we knew that we wanted to collaborate again. We just have a sixth sense essentially where we kind of just look at each other. I would say it's like almost like a sibling kind of thing where it's we can look at each other and say, yes, this is exactly what I need to do. I need to grab this over here, you know, or move this over here. And it's just effortless, I would say. It's easy. It's always great to surround yourself with good people, and Steven is fantastic as well. Like, don't get me wrong. It was a fantastic crew. It's the only way I can really say it. The crew really was the reason why the shoot was so successful, though.
Yeah, we were vibing. It was great. And I think it's, you know, that is one of the benefits, and I think that just goes throughout all of like the film world in general. As soon as you start finding those people that you really mesh with, and you know, the more and more you work together, you automatically kind of just like know where their head's at, what they're going to be doing, and what I need to be doing. So that is a huge benefit, and I think, you know, all of us here at the Little Field Company are kind of like getting into that right now. You know, we've been together for a little while now. We kind of know everyone's strong suits and what they're going to be doing. So I feel like, you know, that's just going all across the board. It also kind of works out though for Zach and I, because I feel like we're so different. Zach is very much a conversational person. He's more of like a director. I'm definitely more of like, I focus on like framing, camera lighting, like all that stuff to make the image look good. And I know that whenever Zach and I have shot in the past and with the DRA, it's like one of those things that I can fully focus on that and making sure that I'm getting the most out of my image and really conveying, you know, whatever story it is that I'm trying to tell. And Zach will essentially get the, you know, the audio portion or get the subject to do whatever it is that they need to do. And so it's just, it's good little tag team.
Whenever you find those people, just keep them close, because knowing how we've done stuff in the past and seeing how much growth we've already had at Littlefield you can't put a price on it. Tim has given some exceptional work here, and so it's just knowing that you just keep going forward, you just keep going higher and higher. And I know that when you have those friends that keep you there as well, it's an easy way to get there a little bit faster. So use it to your advantage if you can.
I also agree with that.
Yes. I agree.
I look forward to finding a team like that.
Shots fired.
Yeah, so we tried using the Blackmagic Pocket 6K Pros for the first time. They are more compact. We were able to travel with them and kind of like fit in the cine lenses that we have. I feel that if we were bringing the C500s with us, I wouldn't have been able to bring the cine lenses. We probably would have had to pack like just EFs or something like that. So it was nice to have those. I have been kind of skeptical of those cameras for a while, but I'm pleasantly surprised. The picture looks great, and being able to use like B-RAW, whatever it's called, I am, you know, able to get like the full potential of the image. And so that was a good experience, actually being able to color things just to usually to a level that I usually never can. I never get to go to that level, I guess. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, and big shout out to our friends at Gigantic. They're an agency over in Dubuque that lent us some of their equipment to use for the shoot, which really helped us out.
Yeah, not having to bring so many lights. They had a bunch of Fresnels for us and other things that were just ready to go. So that was good.
Yeah, it's just tough whenever you're flying with all that gear, and we just experienced that with the recent shoot too. That when you have that gear coming from all different sources, it's nice to have somebody else to say, "Hey, we have something." And they were right across the street from where we were shooting too, so it was fantastic.
Yeah, very convenient. So doing a shoot that's not in your hometown, it takes a little bit extra work, especially when there are flights involved. You got to figure out like what gear you can pack. With the budget, you got to make sure that you can check all the bags you need to check and get all the gear packed and everything. Luckily, this particular client, the DRA, was like really easy to work with. They provided hotel rooms for us. They provided like our meals like on the nights we were there. So that really made my job a lot easier as far as production goes.
So when we went into this, I knew that Tim was going to be my DP for it, and so I knew wholeheartedly that I was just going to put all my faith into him. And so when he said, "Hey, I want to do these really strange shots that kind of cut off people's chests, you know, and stuff, and be a little top heavy," we just went for it because we knew that it was going to be great. And we actually had the client even looking at it on set, and they were approving it immediately because they loved all of our stuff. And so I know for a fact that it was a risk, but it was a risk that definitely paid off, especially because, like you said, we weren't using B-roll. And so I think it was beneficial to have something that was a little bit more pleasing to the eye, like you said.
You know, since these were going to be very like interview heavy, I didn't want it to seem like a regular just like AB cam interview setup. I did a lot of research and watched a bunch of just a lot of documentaries, just looking up frames of documentaries and stuff like that, and trying to find something that was a little bit more exciting and, you know, visually pleasing, because, you know, we are going to see them on screen a lot. There's not a lot of like B-roll that's going on in there. So, you know, you make a pleasing frame, and also the things that they're saying are impactful. So it kind of just like, it's that double whammy. The visuals are great. What they're saying is great. It's just like, we just wanted it to really hit the viewer. So that was nice.
You ended up going really wide for some of the wide shots.
Very wide.
Yes. So I call it the Mr. Robot framing in that show. It's the first time that I saw someone using a framing like that, where they're keeping the subject on the lower part of the frame and then just like leaving a bunch of space. But usually that space is very like exciting. The symmetry is really cool, and it's just like your cool architecture behind them. So I wanted something like that, and fortunately enough, the building that we were in had all of those things. Like, it was a really cool like old mill that was turned into kind of like an event space, so it had like a lot of really cool textures. You know, had the exposed ceilings and stuff like that, to where like you could see all the air ducts and stuff like that. So it had a really cool like industrial feel to it. So it was nice. When shooting really wide, and obviously you'll have like boom mics and other things in your shot, what you'll have to do is kind of remove all of those, and then just record about like a 30-second clip, so you can go back in and mask out the boom mic that would be in the shot, or any light stands, or just anything, sort of cords, anything like that, that'll be hanging in the way.
So the event space looked really nice, like visually, but it wasn't without its challenges. Especially one room in particular was this big white room. It looked great, but when we got there, we realized it was super echoey, and that was kind of a challenge. And I'll let you two kind of talk about that.
Well, yeah, fortunately, you know, that space was, for me, in what I saw in my head, that space was absolutely needed. Most of the other people that we interviewed were in kind of like darker areas, or it's just like a different, this one was like a pure like white space. And kind of the thing in my head was the new CEO, Alex, was going to be shooting his portion only in there. No one else was going to be in there. And that was really more for the reason because it's kind of like the DRA is getting a new start. So it's like, I really wanted to have kind of like that big bright background, and it's kind of showcasing the future of the company and stuff like that, or of the organization, and as they go forward. We also had the light hit him on a different side of the face than everyone else in all the interviews, to kind of like show that. But I did tell Duncan this, and I felt bad about it. He did build us a huge, ugly fort, but it was also beautiful because it blocked out so much sound.
And it did work. It did work.
Yeah, it worked out very well, and it eliminated all of the echo. So, you know, it was great to see Duncan spend like 4 hours on that thing. It was pretty awesome.
It was pretty long.
Yeah. We had a lot of natural light to work with in a few of the spots. We had like some windows that we really positioned people next to, and we're taking advantage of it. I think the shot with the bull, that window was actually majority of just natural light. I think there was like one nan light in there that we were just kind of amplifying it a little bit, but we ended up putting, is it one bed sheet, or folded a bed sheet or something like that, and like just gaff taped it up there to where you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend this, but you know, it did work. So.
But we utilized the natural light to give us almost kind of like a 50-50 split. There was not much roll off and stuff like that, but I felt with a lot of the things that they were talking about, and kind of like the history of everything, it was just kind of like a dark past going into a brighter future. So it kind of made sense to do like just like a split lighting rather than like a 50-50 roll off. So yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, that shot turned out really nice. We were fighting the sun as it was either setting or rising. I can't remember which part of the day it was.
Yeah, that was definitely a late interview for sure.
Time
It
is
was
a
like 4
flat
o'clock,
circle
yeah.
for all of us, but I think at one point we even tossed the 300D up on a pole and put a battery in it, put it right outside the window so we can like bring the light levels up as it was starting to fall off.
Yeah, we had to, in one of those shots with the bull, you'll never know which one it is, but it's actually all artificial at that point because it got dark outside and we just had to recreate what that daylight was doing coming through the window. So,
well, to touch on that too, can you kind of talk about the experience with we interviewed Alex at the end of the day as well. And so we were in a giant white room with giant windows and the sun was going down as we were doing that as well. So we definitely had to adjust for that as well. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just, we were finding ways to brighten the room up, throwing lights around. I mean, it did get to a point where we couldn't compensate for it anymore. So like we had to rush, but like, you know, there were things of just being like, you know, the light started off at like 40%, and then like after each question you would see that the sun was going down and you're like, oh shit, like we need to put it up to 70 or put it up to 90 and like just keep going and trying to make it as bright as we can. So it was definitely just like fighting time at that point. But maybe the one of the things that I think that Zach actually did really well was he had to ask essentially the same question over and over, and I think he did a good job of getting people to actually just be conversational and it not seem so procedural or something like that. I think he was actually able to get some very real authentic responses, and usually that's an obstacle because, you know, people get nervous on camera and then they start kind of like flubbing all over the place and stuff like that. So it was just really nice to see that he ended up just getting some really authentic responses.
Well, another challenge we kind of ran into was the space was great, but we were ultimately limited to one building. So, and we had well over a dozen interviews we had to conduct. So we had to find ways to like move around and like kind of reuse parts of the same space. So we weren't just like in one room for like every interview we shot. And so it was a lot of moving equipment around. It was a lot of going up and down stairs. There was an upstairs space that was kind of nice, but we had to like find different angles and like kind of like set deck differently each time to make it look like a different like interview spot for each person or each little group of interviews we were doing.
And it was a challenge. We had like exposed brick. We had silver that was shining on, you know, like a fireplace area. We had very large furniture as well that we had to kind of move around and make sure that it made sense in the space as well. And so I feel like we handled it well. There was, again, chances that we took on color blocking just to kind of switch it up. I know that we specifically, Emily had a fantastic idea to frame one of our lead interviews as well in this beautiful frame that it was, you see the white frame that Alex was in, but then also you see the blueness of the bar with the dark woods, and it was just something fantastic. And so I think that we did a good job.
She really did come up with, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best frames that was in the whole thing. Just like the light fixtures that are behind the subject and stuff like that, just really, really pop, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, props to Emily.
That's fantastic. I think the DRA wanted something that felt like a history piece, and it was 35 years in the making, and so I know that they were just like, we want to cram a lot of stuff in there. And so for me, it was just, I just wanted to make sure that their narrative story was what they wanted. And I think that we got it. I think that we got plenty of footage, I should say. But I think that we definitely nailed the story. I think that we know exactly who the DRA, who they were back in the day. Their story was really tragic, and then they were a success story. And it's something that I kept asking in the interviews over and over again. I was like, I want to make sure that, you know, if this is not a case study for America, it needs to be a case study for America, because they've done fantastic work. And so I think that was something that I really wanted to make sure that I got in there, was the emotion of it. And I think by having us shoot it in a different way that we haven't done before kind of opened up that emotion a little bit more, to kind of say like, look, we have these, you know, old photos from like the dog track way back in the day, but
it was respectful of the past while looking towards the future.
Exactly. I think that's what it was. There we go.